everybody, and welcome on back to Building with Whip. Today is the episode 150 World Tour, and I am joined by Welsknight. Thank you so much for joining me today, dude. Super excited to have you show off the world a little bit to you.
I see you're one of those F5 intro people.
Yeah, I definitely do that. Got to get everything captured in there in the background. You know, we mix it up sometimes, though. Sometimes you got to do that long walk intro. Other times you just got to go for it and like stare at yourself in the camera. It gets the confidence going.
Fair enough. It's like working yourself up in the mirror.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, who's the man? You're the man.
Just got to do it before every time you start a video. Just be like, you know what? Who's a boss? You are. You're the best. All right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today, dude. Today we are touring around my single player world, Building with Whip. And as I mentioned, we're on episode 150. We're starting right here. Behind you is actually the very first house that I built up in this entire world. So starting from humble beginnings here, the world's kind of turned into a crazy mess of things all over the place, as you'll see here pretty shortly. I think I vacated the inside of this house here, and I'm not one to do much of interiors, so there's not a whole lot going on in here. Got a few of them kind of dotted around the world, but for the most part, I figured it was the first house we needed to have something in here. Some old end rating gear and there and everything. But yeah, so figured we'd just wander around, take a look around the world. If anything catches your fancy while we're wandering throughout it, feel free to give a shout and we can check it out. But
sounds good. Lead the way. I also need to say that, like, with the interior thing, shame on you for not doing interiors.
Yeah,
because I totally always do interiors on.
You know, if I ever needed to know how to do one, I typically go Google like Welsknight interior tutorial. I figure that's the way to go with them.
Oh yeah, it's my most popular video of all time.
Definitely. All right, so
that non-existent one that I'll make someday in
maybe
10 years.
Hey, when 1.14's out, I'll be all over those.
That's true.
Watch.
There's going to be a lot of new options coming. So
yeah,
good.
definitely.
But anyway.
Yeah, so this town right here, I decided to turn it into like a Nile River atmosphere type of environment. I was originally going with like full Egyptian style things, but I ended up just kind of deciding to do kind of a Nile River, really having a lot of life along the rivers kind of as you walk throughout the whole area. I think a lot. Oh, there you are. But yeah, so you can see a lot of waterways. And I tried making little like farming crop areas where they kind of pull the water out of the river and it kind of saturates the fields a bunch and having everything down here. Thought it was just kind of a cool way to... I love having enclosed fields, like not really those big, crazy large ones, and especially like the survival things. I always try and make them look somewhat nice because I figure I'm trying to build a cool looking world. I don't want to just have the giant like boxes of materials with like, or the boxes of crops with like the one water in every single little tiny place. So I tried to hide them as much as I can. But yeah, so we started out here. This is kind of where all the food came from for the first bunch of episodes of it. And then over in this area, you might recognize one of these guys in here. They got this little fancy thing going on in here. So this one might be a little familiar.
It's my super smelter.
Yeah, I think when I had first started this world, you had put out that like 15-minute build of building it yourself, and I was just like, you know, I don't redstone, and this seems like a great way to do things. So kind of move forward with going with that one, and it's worked out great ever since. So
yeah, it gets the job done, and it's like super easy to build. Like it's about as simple as it gets. Not as fast or as efficient or whatever as some of the other ones, but
hey, but definitely gets the job done.
Noob, it works.
Yeah.
Did you see the massive like super the version of this on steroids that I built on Hermitcraft this year?
I did. I don't think I'm up for that one. But
you can do it. It's the same thing. It's just bigger.
Yeah, just keep the chains going.
Exactly.
But yeah, back here we got a little bit of like a blacksmith area kind of stuck in here. This is where I've been doing a lot of tool repairing and things like that, enchanting tools, and just kind of exploring throughout the area of just kind of seeing the first potential interior-ish places. You know, behind the doors, there's nothing. So, you know, going through a doorway usually leads to nothing in this world besides... but I like to have, like, if there's, like, an open area, like this little blacksmith area, always going to include something in there. Can't just leave it empty. But here's just a bunch of little tiny houses and things like that back here. I tried to make it look kind of that Middle Eastern style where you have all the banners, or not banners, but, like, the tarps covering everything and just the very colorful area. So, like, up above, there's always, like, the decks covering, or on the decks there's always like cloth covering them, everything using the carpet and things like that. So just trying to get that whole atmosphere out through here. That's something I've really tried to push, is like creating atmosphere wherever I'm going. So yeah, this area worked out pretty well. I tried messing with some red sandstone just to mix up the buildings so they're not all sandstone. Didn't work out too well. But it was worth a shot. So
I think you accomplished what you set out to. This definitely creates atmosphere. I love it. What it really comes down to for me is like the street view, right? Like you definitely, when you're walking down the street, you're like looking around. That's where it all kind of comes together.
I don't know if you caught this guy back here, but there's a really tiny little alleyway back where it just kind of really closely comes together. And I loved adding little things like this, just tiny passageways. And also that thing is probably blown up like 15 times to creepers, but that's totally fine. But I mean, it's a little rough when it's a little dark back there and you walk around, it's just like, oh, there's a creeper in front of me, a few vines behind me. I can't get out of here. Totally stuck on this one. But over in this area, we can jump across to that rest of the city over there. Figured we'd just touch on this guy, and there's ignore the creeper hole.
I was gonna say that looks like a creeper hole if I ever saw one.
Yeah, well then, creepers in this world definitely. But we got a little stables area in here, just some llamas, horses, mules, and everything. Fun fact: I don't know if you knew this one, but they actually can't walk through diagonal fences right there.
I did know that.
So I found that out a long time ago. I was like, wow, you can actually make some interesting designs without including all that stuff. But so this city is called Papyrus, and I want to add some giant like sugarcane fields to the area, just kind of go along with the name. So we got really big plantations. This one is kind of a work in progress that probably stopped working on about a year ago. Okay. But that one, most end goal is have it be kind of looking like this guy. So under here is actually a giant sugarcane factory underneath the building. So if I never need some sugarcane or anything, I kind of have a purpose and a place to get it. So jumping in here, there'll be a little trapdoor going down there. Just creating one of those classic sugarcane areas. Yeah. So not the most efficient and could obviously be prettied up a bit, but it's done the job. It's stop by here every once in a while when I need some things, and apparently it's a little broken back there. So that's fun too. I guess I got some repair to do on the old parts of the world, but yeah. So that's kind of what's over in this area. Now we can go ahead and jump across to the rest of the city because that's probably the cool part of this place. The Nether is still the Nether hub. I do have one going on in here. It's very much a work in progress. We can stop into it later just to briefly check it out, but it's pretty cool, but it's very dark in there, which is kind of why I avoid going into it a whole lot. I tried doing like a River of Souls, Well of Souls type feel, so from like Greek mythology or something like that, and used way too much black concrete in the Nether, and it's very dark.
Fair enough.
But yeah, jumping over to here, this is where I tried to create like that just city area for everything. So this is kind of like the main street going throughout. Added in a bunch of cats throughout after I got smart and realized there's tiny corridors. Pretty much added a cat to every single one of them, so creepers just don't go in them. It works out pretty well. But yeah, so here's kind of one of the big, I always figure this would be kind of like a royal's house or something like this. This lighter stone here is diorite. If you're checking that guy out. Hated diorite itself, but I wanted to make like another light stone variant that I could kind of work with throughout there that still kind of blended in with the rest of them. Up here though, this is the giant big old palace area. I started out with the idea of having every build kind of having a different mega structure of its own. So this guy in here with the banners and everything, just very fancy area. Below it is actually a mob farm. So if you hear mobs going, that's why. Right through the floor is a giant pit of mobs. But there's a few things we can jump back into the area back here.
The Kingdom's mob farm.
Yeah, that might be. For some reason, it broke when I moved to 1.13 as well. So
I actually had a similar thing happen. For me, the water got like messed up at the bottom. Like it added a bunch of water spots.
Huh. Yeah, for some reason for me, when I trigger it on and off, it just doesn't go. Like the water got like erased out of the dispensers, or they're just like not firing. So I'm gonna have to mess around with that one. But I've been planning on building a newer one, just kind of in an alternative area over in the city. We'll be touring here in a little bit. I figured I'm not in here very often, so I don't really get a whole lot of use out of it. Not sure quite where
water buckets are all still in place.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder. You know what? I bet it's something super simple. Yeah, it's super simple. You don't have a redstone pulse going around your thing anymore.
Yeah, so it's actually turned on back in this area. So I'll go ahead and trigger that guy on. There's a little bit of an area with a lever to turn it back on and off, but it can lag out a little bit here. So that's it turned on now. So I think you should be able to see that going up there. Maybe, hopefully.
Then that goes.
Yeah, so it like goes all the way around, but the top one isn't dispensing. So I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Have you been going through all the snapshots as well?
For 1.14, no. Oh, 1.13, no. I actually didn't touch any of them.
Didn't touch any of the snapshots?
Yeah, no, I just waited straight up for the release because I did the 1.12 snapshot life and it kind of messed up a bunch of things. So I just it's like, I'll just leave it for now.
I just had to replace all the dispensers. I'm sorry, the observers. Just replace them, just break them and put them back.
Mm-hmm.
And that should fix it.
Yeah,
I think Nemban told me that when he designed this. When I updated to 1.13 or something.
Good to know.
Anyway.
Yeah. We can leave the mob farm behind. It's got a little junk room down here for all of the mob drops and everything. Slowly going through the gunpowder supplies, so I'll have to see through fixing that guy soon because it's a little bit of needed. Over here, though, up into this area, they're just kind of a map of the region for what we're going to be checking out right now. So in Papyrus, start down here, this big guy, and then the roads kind of go up off into the distance, and we'll be kind of up in that top left area where you can see the big green area and the villages and everything up there.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and wander up to there pretty soon. Up here, though, we can head up straight up to the top, and there's a little bit of a shrine up here I made for after killing the Ender Dragon, just because I figured, we got a dragon egg, we might as well use it. So I tried to turn it into like almost like a religious shrine. So whoever like the king or ruler is, he's like the guy who communes with the gods here. So I tried turning the Ender Dragon or the dragon egg itself into like the shrine up here. Thought it was kind of a cool way because they're so built around the water that I just tried to incorporate everything in here. I don't know, thought it was a cool little design to kind of mix things up and add a little bit of that Minecraft element back into here instead of creating that whole like just pure medieval world and trying to add some fantasy into it.
Sure. I like the use of the upside down end rod as like a holder.
Yeah. I figured I need some way to hold it up, and I didn't want to put like a full block or a slab or anything in there, so just kind of came across that and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so palm trees everywhere, palm trees galore in this whole city. Jump back down here to the front. There's just a few things left in here to check out, and then we'll run off over to the other city. A lot of just open houses, sandstone houses, typical stuff. Got a big old marketplace in here that I made way back when and kind of did like a tribute to the first people who subscribed to the channel. So I asked everybody to give like a shop idea and named them all after them for everybody who left ideas. So some of the really OG fWhip subscribers are on here, which is super cool kind of to walk through here and be like, oh, I remember Sally Joe or whatever, Sally Ann walking through and all that stuff. So it's really cool just kind of seeing all those things. So, but yeah, that was kind of a big one right there. Over in this area is big old storage room. Not one of those fancy redstone storage rooms, but works nonetheless. Just big old everything down here. Just kind of 2 floors of this of all the goods you could ever need. And happy to say that there used to be 20 shulker boxes full of stone over in here. But maybe I'll get back up there one day. You'll see why there's not 20 shulker boxes of stone left anymore here pretty soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, just for reference, I've used my pickaxe is now at 525,000 uses. So just kind of heads up, and most of that is stone.
I believe it. I don't even want to know how many like stone blocks I've mined.
Yeah,
over the years. I bet it's an absurd amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this down here is we can just do a quick loop through it. I tried making like a little Oasis area and building in some new windmills, kind of inspired by, I don't know if you ever played Age of Empires 2.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so those old windmills they had for like the Persian teams and all like the Arabic civilizations and everything, tried to copy one of those because I figured every windmill I ever really saw in Minecraft was very much horizontal. And I tried making one here that's more vertical based with the blades kind of turning like that. I thought it gave a really cool, unique idea and kind of feel to this area here. So this area down here is probably one of the more finished up areas of this place. I've done it more recently. Probably within the last like 4 months or so, I think. So really tried to bring something cool into this area, adding a bunch of new designs, crop fields, all that good stuff. Really trying to bring in that like lush environment again to it. So had a lot of fun messing around with that one. Last thing to check out really in this area, we can wander out the front here. One thing that I've always tried to be pretty strong with in this world is if I'm ever doing like a mob farm or any type of farm in here, I gotta make it look good. So if you're looking at this one right here in front of us, any guesses on what type of farm that would be?
Maybe a squid farm or a cactus farm?
Go up above it and you'll be able to see.
Iron farm.
Yeah. So I figured I was like, well, it's iron golems. Let's turn it into like a battle arena. And I was actually watching the old Gladiator movie and saw like the first start of it. I was like, I'm just going to build an arena based off of that. It turned out pretty good. So this is my good old classic, super simple iron farm. They're actually, funny enough, this little house right here was on top of a old squid farm that no longer works because 1.13. So the little kind of treat shop right outside the arena area is just where my ink collection goes. Everything like that. So underneath all the sand right here is a giant squid farm that no longer works, unfortunately.
Oh, it looks like you got plenty of ink left over, though.
No. Living good on that stuff for a while. But yeah, so what we can do here is just kind of wander. That's pretty much everything in Papyrus. It's pretty old, so there's not a whole lot of updated depth to it, but that's more or less the city itself there. Coming along this way, I really tried to mess around with creating like detailed pathways. I love adding just kind of tiny bits of atmosphere as you're walking through areas. There's always like little things to check out right off the path, whether it's like a like lilac field or something like that, or just things all over the place. There's just little things to kind of go check out throughout wherever you're going. So I try to add like fallen trees and just the works kind of when you're walking through here, just add extra life to it. Just so it's kind of not that typical just Minecraft terrain. And this used to be a birch forest, so I figured I'd try and make it look actually nice.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so right up here, there's one little thing to kind of catch that I love adding these little guys in here. I'm trying to remember where it is. I think it's right up over in here. I try to add like little like fox dens almost, just kind of little animal dens so they can just kind of critters can run down in there. I just feel like they're cool little tiny things you can add with such little work, but you can maybe like that'll catch your eye when you're walking along the pathway and be like, oh, hey, what's that? Let's go check that thing out. So I was just trying to add little stuff like that in there, but that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So that's the pathway leading up to White Glen. That's the city up here, it's a village up here. I tried to recreate a Minecraft village, so you'll see a bunch of villagers running around in here, just kind of making all the stuff look super cool. We've got a windmill out front. It's a very much a farming village inspired place. Windmills are not my forte, so I'm still thinking about coming back and reworking this guy, at least redoing the blades on it, but yeah, so up here, I tried to really take that Minecraft villager feel and make a natural environment where they could actually be like safe in it. So I didn't want to be trapping them in boxes or anything like that, but really have them just kind of have farms all over the place. So a bunch of little small cul-de-sacs everywhere, just leading up to different houses. There's just a bunch of them running around in these different places, little stables and everything like that. Got a bunch of dogs and just different stuff around here. But yeah, like this was the village center where the well was, and I figured instead of a well, I could do a big old oak tree and just kind of add to different elements of the world, make it look a little bit better.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of this area. I took all basically where the buildings were to start. It was a rather big village. So I basically took all the existing buildings they had and just kind of converted them into a different style of building. The only one that I really added up here was on the hill over to the left here. There's a big old church area. Right. Okay. So I added in the church because they didn't have a church, but there's a bunch of like cleric villagers in the town. For some reason, just a church didn't spawn here. So I was like, well, we kind of got to add one into here. So came up with this guy. This is probably one of my favorite church builds I've ever actually done. And it actually has an interior for once, so that's pretty good. But the exterior itself, I got from a buddy that I used to play with back on a Conquest. I don't know if you're familiar with the resource pack.
I'm familiar with Conquest.
Yeah, so we used to have a Conquest like an SMP server type thing. So one of the guys on there built a really similar church to this one. So I just tried to recreate it in vanilla and kind of modify it a little bit better to work with all this good stuff. Sure, you're seeing everything there behind us now. All that big terrain. But before we get to that, we can go ahead and finish the tour, this part of the tour on that guy over there. All these just kind of different fields and everything. I tried to make like just a bunch of different flower areas and crop areas and just everything kind of being unique. All the fields are kind of just in their own different ways. So whether like lilac fields, I try to make them look like lavender plants or something like that. Got a bunch of like pumpkin fields, wheat fields, carrot, beetroot, potatoes, all those things. Just trying to make the field patterns be pretty interesting instead of just kind of filling everything. So I tried to do like the old traditional like crop strips and things like that just to add a little bit extra depth here because I figure I'm never going to harvest them, so I don't need to use all the space.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of
really cool. Yeah, I like this is fantastic. And the river that kind of comes down the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really nice touch as well. Was that river there before, or did you completely make the river by hand?
No, this was just all flat plains. I think there's a few ponds in there that I connected up a little bit, but for the most part, it's all pretty much man-made. a lot of the terraforming in this area is pretty much, I've done a lot of it kind of just by hand because I'm crazy and like to do a lot of terraforming in survival. But yeah, so most of the stuff here is pretty much hand placed besides like the hills and things for the most part. Those are pretty much, those are kind of generated and just modified slightly. That being said though, the giant mountains and everything you're seeing back here behind us, I figured this would be a good place to end off. There's a lot of really cool scale. If you come down to where I'm at down here and just kind of walk up through it, it gets a lot bigger. So all this was once a swamp biome. So it's pretty different now than a swamp biome. So kind of walking up through here, a lot of it I'm still kind of coming in and finishing up adding some trees and just kind of doing work like this, just every now and then coming back into the area and just doing large chunks of work at a time when I feel like I want to be working through it, because I figured it's kind of a forever world, so I'm not really rushed to finish any projects, just kind of finishing them as I go. So just adding little elements here and there kind of when I get inspired to do that type of stuff. So I got like a little traveler's cart or something like that right throughout here. Coming up, the end goal is to basically have this whole area be a big, thick, like taiga forest type thing. Kind of like the forest area you'll see up here. I want to do like a Nordic inspired area, but kind of like mountain Nords, kind of like Skyrim type stuff.
Sure.
So definitely taking a lot of inspiration from that type of stuff when creating the terrain up here. But to the right up here, it kind of ends off into nothing. That's kind of where I'm working. We can check that guy out here pretty soon. Going down here, the whole idea is basically kind of create this tight-knit atmosphere here where like little things are popping through in and out from whatever you're looking at. Just kind of, you'll see different things popping up throughout wherever you're looking. Just kind of all over the place. So like you come out over the bridge here, and if you look over to the left through the trees and everything, you'll see something, a giant mountain popping up in the background. Yeah, so it's it's pretty big. That's kind of what I'm working on now.
Yeah, it's pretty big, gotta say. And I see all this, holy cow. Then you come over here and you look at the backside of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, there's at least something back there. There's a nice little snow farm. But yeah, it's pretty dark. I don't know if you've flown underneath the train yet or not. Just check it out down there. I've always played with the idea of doing like a Surviving the Dark series or something like that after this whole thing's done, like coming down here just with like a handful of torches and maybe some wood or something like that, and see just like how long you could survive. So basically created a whole Minecraft terrain with a roof over it at this point. So I figured if I blow it up, it doesn't really matter too much.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of most of what the area is up here. This little valley area that we're kind of in right now, behind the gate and the walls, is kind of going to be where the eventual town is and all that stuff. Just kind of going to be coming back into that later once the mountains are more stretching across that whole area, because those things are taking a little while to finish up and get all those kind of just bits and pieces added in there, because those all takes a while. I think that's about 20 hours worth of work just building mountains up there. That doesn't really include the gathering of all the resources, everything like that. But yeah, so that's a lot of what's up in the Nordic village here. I tried to make this area really focused around something different than the rest of the world. So they're really focused on like pigs and carrots and things like that up here, just kind of as their food sources. So because I didn't want to do like the cows, sheep, pigs, everything, every single zone. So I figured it'd be kind of fun to add those guys more unique up here. A more finished area of what I want the eventual outside bits of everything up here to look like would be kind of what's out in this direction. Right over here over the cliff, there's a little bit of like a farming village type area to it, which is more finished up. This is kind of the forest atmosphere I want for this whole thing. So just kind of a bunch of open wheat fields, kind of where they have sunlight or where they've chopped the trees down before. And then a few houses like this, just kind of interior spaces that they can live and work in, just really like family living style, kind of cramming everything in here to get as close to the fire as you can to stay warm. Because end goal is to kind of make it look more like it's post-winter up here or something. So the snow's like just melting, or maybe like fall. So like the snow's just starting, I think was more what I was going for, because there's crops growing everywhere.
Sure.
But yeah, so kind of just a bunch of stuff like this. There's a few houses kind of dotted up in here, just all over the place. Just kind of different things. That's the only one up here that doesn't have an interior. The other ones actually do. But yeah, that's kind of everything that's going on up in these regions. And that, I figured that'd probably be a good stopping point for the first part of the tour, since this is pretty much kind of splitting the world in half right here, going through all of it. And the rest of the stuff's a little bit more in depth. So I don't know if that sounds good to you. If we want to stop
sounds good to me.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this part of the tour. We'll be back with you guys very shortly to begin part 2. So thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.